So I got asked recently about Strive, so I was thinking maybe a retrospect video about what Guilty Gear Strive is now. Thinking about it from when it was first shown. Remember, if you like videos, like, sub, silly comment, share, support the channel if you want. I appreciate it. Thanks. Of course, take this with a grain of salt, because I'm not a big, to go off on a tangent, I'm not a big consumer of the game or, you know, video games in general, despite what people want to believe. I told the story recently. I was talking to a friend and I'm like, man, have we even played video games 5 times this year? And I don't think we have. And I was thinking, man, how many? This might be one of the least amount of video game years I've ever even had in my life. I played on Fightcade a little bit at the end of last year, sporadically, of course, not a lot, and a little bit the beginning of this year before, I got banned. They made up those lies because I was beating people so bad on Fightcade. And, even a game like Guilty Gear Plus R, I think I've only played that maybe a few times this entire year because my controller is pretty jank in it. There's not a lot of will, and my health is not good. Again, this is the tangent part. People have no idea. It's painful for me to play video games, and I'm just so tired from other things. So I'm just not a big consumer of video games, despite what, a lot of haters might say. So what I mean is take this with a grain of salt is I don't watch a lot of Strive in the first place. But, I will say, thinking about the retrospect of the game and where it is now, because, the game was it originally being made 4 or 5 years ago? They originally showed footage of it. Was it like 3 years ago or some shit when I originally predicted the game and all that kind of stuff? So what has the game been being played for like 2 years now or something? A year and a half, but it was beta test, whatever the fuck it was, right? But one of the things that I see, again, I'm not looking for footage of the game, but sometimes footage comes to me, if I'm just on Twitter and I see the posts that are getting like, reposted, whatever it is. And I just think, man, the game is exactly like I said, all these kind of things, right? It's such a big failure of a game to me. Okay, I'm not a big consumer of the game, but the footage that I see in my feed that gets posted is generally of Happy Chaos and Chip, right? And those are two characters that don't need to break the wall, right? Isn't that interesting? Happy, and again, I'm not a big consumer of the game. I'm not out looking for footage. But a lot of times the most shared clips that I see other people sharing is like Chip stuff. He runs up the wall, blah, 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 and he's not trying to break it. You know what I mean? It's cool, whatever. And you see a character like Happy Chaos, he's not breaking the wall, right? You know what I mean? He does like, some guy fall down, blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking, isn't that kind of proof of everything that I've said about the game? If you think about it, I mean, look at what I predicted for the game, right? You know what I mean? If we took it the Chip example of Chip running along the wall and all that kind of stuff. I said from the very get-go, I think that Guilty Gear, to the Arc System work credit, Arc System Works, you know what I mean? Just like King of Fighters back in the day, I think Arc Systems Works, they do a great job of reinventing their characters. They could definitely be EX characters. And I said from the very get-go, this game is going to be, the most interesting thing is going to be the characters, because they can still make good characters. And I've always said, I keep using that phrase, that Guilty Gear has always been a game where it teeter-tottered, you know what I mean? That the characters are a little bit more interesting than the system of the game, right? The system is still important, right? You know what I mean? But the characters are always so interesting. And I said, what they're going to do for Strive is they're going to try to sell you on the system of the game. But the system of the game, you can already tell, is so fucking flawed, it's going to be a failure. Because the characters are still going to be, it's only going to make it look even worse, that the characters are still the most interesting thing. And it's still so obvious. Again, this is going to be a broader conversation if you're going to see what I'm getting at. You know what I mean? It's like the characters are still so good reinventions of characters and everything like that, right? I mean, they're good EX characters. You know what I mean? Just like King of Fighters, they used to make, Arc Systems, they deserve credit. They can still reinvent characters, right? Now, the system, The system is shit, right? You know what I mean? That's something, we compare to Street Fighter. Street Fighter generally, I feel like Capcom, they have some workarounds, and you know what I mean? Capcom does not do good jobs of reinventing their characters whatsoever. I don't think. I think they're generally pretty terrible, to be honest with you. You got to pick and choose about, well, that looks kind of interesting, right? You know what I mean? Generally, Capcom is the one that does system stuff better than I think Guilty Gear in terms of progressing their version of a fighting game. But, you know, Guilty Gear, they still make cool characters. And the characters are still the best thing about Strive. And it's the system that sucks, right? And you think about the wall. You know what I mean? Like I said, the wall is so flawed. The wall is so terrible. When you sell a product to a consumer, you know what I mean? You have to be like, this is something you can get in our product that you can't get in anything new. That's why I always said the wall was such a good opportunity, because you can put something in a game and be like, hey, there's tons of other fighting games you could play, Dragon Ball, Street Fighter, King of Fighters, but now we're going to put a new game system in this thing, and you can only enjoy this aspect of what a fighting game can be with Guilty Gear Strive, right? And Guilty Gear Strive, the system is the worst thing about it. It's the most uninteresting thing about it, the wall, right? Look at all the clips you see, and that's one of the points I wanted to make. You know what I mean? Do you remember when I showed you that one interview of Arc System Works when they were actually making the wall, and they were talking about, oh, it's going to be so good for the game. People are going to love it. It's going to add a new mind game to it. And I'm like, there's no mind game to this, because for almost every single character, there is no reason to not break the wall. It is not a mind game. It is terrible. And I even showed, and the funny thing is, in the betas, you could actually get the guy to slide down a little bit farther before they got the slump animations. And they even made that harder in further iterations of the game, which is crazy, right? Because there's even less incentive to not break the wall. And then even in the developer interviews, they said, yeah, again, someone could find the quote. They're like, yeah, we had it so you could do this, but then we thought we still can't figure out a reason why you would not break the wall. It always seems like the best thing to do. And it's like, why do you have it then? It makes no sense. And what I'm getting at, even if you see clips of people playing the game, the most popular clips that I see get posted, you know what I mean? I'm not searching for it. It's just like, oh, popular post of the day of this game, whatever, is Chip wall stuff, because Chip doesn't have to break the wall. Just like I said, Chip is great because he's whenever. Right again, I was the first. I fucking called these games. You know what I mean? And Happy Chaos is a character that doesn't have to break the wall. Breaking the wall is not exciting. It's not a new mind game, right? Because there's only a few situations or characters that can actually make it like a mind game or actually use it. And the thing is, if you're thinking about it, what Happy Chaos is doing, what Chip is doing, does not require the Guilty Gear Strive wall. What they are doing with their setups and wall could be done in any video game, could be done in any fighting game. It is not a new, perspective on what fighting games can be. You can see it's such a hugely dropped ball, right? Because most of the time, no one gives a fuck if you break the wall or not, because it is always almost the best case. And like I said, even it's so crazy that in the earlier betas, at least you could kind of slide the guy down and they could fall down a little bit, but still it was like, why would you not break the wall though? There's almost no reason for you never to break the wall. Let's not even get into the fact that the wall health regeneration system and all this kind of shit that I called day one or day minus 365, whatever it was, for how stupid it was. And people were like, oh, that's not true. No one could ever call that. And then when the game came out, like, oh, it's true. I can't. Whoever would have been able to find this out? I don't know, Clayton, who's been calling games for 20 years just by looking at it, dude. And I also said you can go back and look at Guilty Gear Strive. Did I not make videos saying exactly how commentators? I made videos saying this is how the commentators are going to call this game with the drift FRCs and everything. It's like, these are all the things. If you watch a tournament, people are going to focus on this because the game is so fucking lackluster and the system is so fucking shit. They're going to focus exactly like this. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I ever see that way to beat that, blah, 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 blah. I made video. Just think about that. I was already so sure that I had called the game that I made videos saying, like, I can already tell you exactly how commentators are going to commentate this game. That is ridiculous. And guess what? I was right. Right? If you recall as well, I made videos, even remember when the game was first being like showed and people were like, oh, this is going to be the most risky game ever to jump in. No one's ever going to jump in this game. Oh boy, that aged well. You could literally see that was not true whatsoever in the fucking videos. No one's ever going to jump in this game. It's the most risky game ever to jump in. Event Hub says it. Event Hub's leaking to everybody talking about this is the most risky game ever to jump in. You have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Not how the game is working. You could see it. There's no reason to even believe it works that way. And people were focused on what's going to be the most risky game ever to jump in, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, the only thing we don't like about it is the display. But if you think about it and go watch my videos and the videos I've made for the game, I actually said the display, if you think about it, with the huge counter hit system, is one of the only new interesting perspectives on a fighting game, because the counter hit system, like I was saying, like, oh, the bigger the counter hit, you can see the game kind of slows down. And you can do weird counter hit combos, not from a normal perspective of a fighting game of, oh, you get this one hit with the counter hit, you know what I mean? And that's your big like hit, whatever. This game you actually get, it's like a time system. And I'm like, oh, and then the bigger thing shows you it's like a time system. Like, that's actually cool. And guess what? No one fucking talked about that besides me. Isn't it crazy? I mean, it's just ridiculous. And that's the only thing the game actually still does legitimately cool. The wall is completely fucked up. All the most popular clips that I get showed basically is characters not breaking the wall. Oh my god, really please, like, hey Clayton, I'm gonna post one video. This one character did a big wall combo that actually did a lot of damage. I saw that post. Okay, you got me. 1 out of 10 clip. Oh my god, he broke the wall and killed the guy. It's not a new perspective on games. It doesn't change the perspective on games. That's why I've made multiple videos saying this is how you could have changed the wall. It would have made the game so much better. It would have been a new perspective, and you would have had hype moments and ways to commentate the game on that. The narrative of selling a product to the audience and making it hype, instead of all the hype moments being exactly what I said when I said how the commentators were going to call the fucking goddamn game. Right? And you know those wall videos were crazy because my haters were so mad about all this stuff. They're like, oh, when Clayton predicted the game, it doesn't matter because it was so early on, that doesn't count. Are you serious? I called the game so early that it doesn't count because it was so early? Or one guy said he doesn't like how I said I would change the wall, and then he wrote something exactly different than what I said I would have changed the wall. So you know I must have. He can't even admit it was such a good idea. He couldn't even say what I said because he knows I was right. So he told everyone I said something different. I'm like, come on. Are you fucking kidding me? So, thinking about, Guilty Gear Strive, the retrospect is just that the game is still exactly like I fucking said it would be, right? These clips people show, the wall breaking or the wall not breaking, actually, it's not anything to do with the actual core idea of the game, so to speak. It's not a new perspective. You know what I mean? Because these characters that are actually mostly these clips that get showed of crazy mix-ups, whatever it might be, a wall breaking or not breaking, you could have done this crazy mix-up in a different game without there being a wall that breaks or doesn't break. Do you get what I'm saying? This has nothing to do. It doesn't show off Guilty Gear Strive. And if anything, most of the time when you see people, when they talk about the game, it really is Guilty Gear. You guys they still make cool characters. You know what I mean? But instead, they've chosen to show like, to be on, the wall is going to be so good because people hate Okazeme, blah, 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 which I've made videos about that, talking about that. People don't actually hate Okazeme if you actually know how video games work. These people say, oh, we hate, media attacks, constant like setups. We hate being in hell. Yet all these people constantly, oh, here's my safe jump setup. Here's my crazy setup that you're in hell. But I hate being in hell. This shouldn't be in games, but let me try to show my channel of all my crazy setups of putting you in hell. Oh God, yeah. I just think like video games are like a curse to me. I can't even like the video game community is such a fucking curse. It's like such a curse to me that I was like born with being good at video games or some shit like that. When I think that I've been able to predict these games, and it's like God, and then you think, my health is so bad, I can't really even fucking play video games even if I want to half the time. You know what I mean? It's just like, and another thing too, to end this video with too, I think Strive, you can tell it's a failure of, being a real new perspective on a video game. Because, Strive, it did the whole fucking, I guess there's actually almost a word for it called like fan baiting, right? If your game is so uninteresting in a certain perspective that to shill it, you know what I mean? You have to start changing the genders of all your characters and everything like that. And I said the video games are not the only thing that do this. Like this is another problem in all forms of media, right? You know what I mean? Like look at other forms of media when people talk about comic books and retcons and movies and there's this idea of like I guess it's called fan baiting, you know what I mean? Where you almost make up fake drama to stir up controversy and to stir up, discussion about your game. People don't talk about Guilty Gear Strive and like, oh my God, can you imagine the new perspective on this wall? People aren't talking about Guilty Gear Strive like that. They don't talk about, oh my God, the wall is such an amazing mind game. There's never been a fighting game like this. They don't talk about, look at this, they're fucking people. They did this whole fucking Bridget clusterfuck with her gender to, to suck the dick to the overly radical LGBTQ to get more promotion for the game. And I called that as well. People are like, oh, they'll never do that for Guilty Gear because no one will talk about that. Well, look how that turned out. I should go find out what some of those comments were. When I was saying that shit was going to happen, someone should go back. One of my stalkers should go back and, when I was calling that shit was going to happen, you know what I mean? People are like, oh no, why would Daisuke, they'll never do that with Guilty Gear. They'll never start changing genders or anything like that or changing, the storyline to make money because you don't make money off of that, which again is retarded because we know that people try to create controversy with that. Like, oh, you don't like this? Are you a bigot? You don't like this only because you're a bigot. You're racist? Is that why? Like, maybe, like, are you kind of like, that's fake controversy. And look what it did for Guilty Gear. Strive. What do people still talk about for months? The Bridget thing. Because your game wasn't what you said it was actually going to be. Right? Your game is exactly how I said it was going to turn out. You're trying to promote this game again, the most risky game ever to jump in. One of the most fucking ridiculous things ever. I mean, come on. I did how many videos on that? And I'm like, dude, what are you guys posting about? This is the most risky game ever to jump in. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, the wall is going to be so amazing. It's going to be it's going to be totally different for fighting games. It's going to change the total different way that you play fighting games. What are you talking? It's not a great new perspective. It's not some big brain thing. You know what I mean? All the fucking people, when you see people post clips, guess what? The clips that they're posting, the wall breaking or not, there's no mind game there. Oh, the wall broke, so it did a lot of damage. Well, you do big combos in other games, and you can do a lot of damage. People post huge damaging combos that instantly kill you in other games. Not just Strive. Oh, wait, but no, look, where Chip was running up the wall, and then he did all these crazy combos. Well, technically, he's not breaking the wall. He could be running up the wall and doing all these crazy mix-ups in old games. You're like, oh, yeah, but look at all these happy chaos setups where, the guy's on the ground, he's not breaking the wall. Yeah, he's not breaking the wall, so you could do those crazy hell stuff in other games. And you're like, oh, yeah, but aren't these amazing reinventions of characters? I already said that. Yeah. Arc Systems works in King of Fighters. I've always said that. They deserve a lot of credit for being able to reinvent characters and make cool EX characters. I mean, even look at the old Guilty Gear games, XX, what was there? Was there EX characters in Guilty Gear X? I don't think there was, but XX and even XX to Accent Core Plus R, they were actually still rebalancing the EX characters. Do you remember? And I've said this before. It's too bad they didn't do that. Do you remember when they were originally making Accent Core Plus R and it was coming to arcade and they said they were going to not only rebalance the EX characters again, but they were going to make the EX characters legitimately playable? Unfortunately, they didn't do that, but they rebalanced the EX characters again that you can play for fun. I mean, Arc Systems Works they do pretty good with that, just like King of Fighters. I mean, I just say a lot of the problems with these games is the fundamental stuff. You know what I mean? They're like little fundamental flaws, one step forward, two steps back. You know what I mean? Guilty Gear in comparison to like Street Fighter. You know what I mean? I think Street Fighter has been doing better about adding. You know what I mean? Little gameplay quirks and gameplay systems, you know what I mean? Then, Guilty Gear is, again, the wall. I mean, the only thing that is interesting really from a gameplay perspective of Strive is the counter hit system, which is funny because, again, if you look back at it, people were complaining back when the game was nuts. Oh, I hate this display. Why are there big counter hits? I don't like that. And then if you think about it, I'm like, well, no, this is cool because it's actually something a little bit different. It's not just like, oh, I get one counter hit. It's like a set kind of frame of time. And that's why I made multiple videos directed to that. And I'm like, this game actually has some potentially very interesting conversions. No one wanted to talk about that. Oh, no, that's not real. Oh, it's real. No one would have known this unless we hacked the game to see that's how it worked. Can you, what did they say? We had to do a cheat engine to see that's how it works. Who the fuck is that idiot that acts like he's a big tech lord? He's like, no one would have ever been able to figure out the wall unless I use cheat engine. No one would have ever been able to figure it out unless I use cheat engine. It's like, oh, were you serious? Are you kidding me? You fucking retard. Give me a fucking break. And then you look at this game and it's like, wow, what do people talk about to hype up the game? Oh, we're hyping up changing the characters' identities. Fan baiting. Your game is not very interesting if you have to do that in the grand scheme of fighting games, to be honest with you, right? Now, if you like the videos, like, sub, silly, comment, share, support the channel. I'm coming to kill you. Call the police. Call the police. I'm under the bed. I'm under the bed right now. 2% female viewership. Fuck you. The end.